Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Go, go, go.
Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Today, the murder of Deputy Jack Hopkins, Modac County Sheriff's Office, California. Alright folks, most of the information for this case is going to come from an appellate court, so the information should be very factual. Deputy Hopkins, he'd been with Modac County Sheriff's Office for about a year. Now, previous to that, he'd worked for a municipal department. He'd been with that other department for just about a year. Now, he had to resign from that department. He had a squad car wreck or something. They ran him off. Not really sure why. It must have been a bad accident or something. Most police departments, if they fired every officer that had gotten in a wreck or two, they wouldn't have many policemen left. Now, Deputy Hopkins, his mom and daddy were still alive, and he had a sister and a whole passel of nieces and nephews. Now, this area of California, it's up in the northeast corner, bumps up to the Oregon state line. This is a very small sheriff's department, and they're patrolling a very big county. A lot of these calls these officers are going on, these deputies, they're doing them by themselves. In fact, according to the resource material, some of these calls, it's 3 or 4 hours for a deputy to get to a location in the county. Alright, it's the morning of October 19th, 2016. Suspect's daddy and his older brother, they went out to where the suspect was living in a bunkhouse there on the ranch. Now, they had to collect some water jugs, and they were going to fill them with filtered water that the family used. This is how rural this is now. This is definitely borders on the Old West. So they get out to the bunkhouse. The suspect had filled the water jugs up with well water. Now, according to the daddy and the brother, the suspect told him, he said, "Well, I've got the jugs filled up. We got to prepare for an attack, for the end of the world." So the suspect's daddy, he began emptying those water jugs. Obviously, since the water came straight from the well, not from the filtered water, I'm sure the family would have got pretty sick on the well water. Now, at this time, the suspect, he threw what was described as a temper tantrum. Now, he hit his daddy. His daddy fell down, and the suspect got on top of him and was going to hit him some more. Now, the suspect's brother, he grabbed the suspect, threw him against the wall, and he said, "If you don't stop, I'm going to call the police." And the suspect's older brother, he walked out of the bunkhouse to go make the phone call. Now, the 911 call from the brother, it came in at 9:30 a.m. He said he needed a deputy to come out to the ranch because the suspect was pushing his daddy around. Now, the call originally went to the sheriff because there wasn't but the sheriff and a few more deputies. There wasn't a lot of people at work, as is usually the case in Modac County. So Deputy Hopkins, he heard the call, and he said he would head that way. Sheriff Poindexter, he got on the radio and said he was heading that way as well. Now, at one point, Sheriff Poindexter attempted to get in contact with Deputy Hopkins and tell him, "Just wait for me somewhere and let's go together," but he couldn't get a hold of him. Now, the courts don't state how he tried to get a hold of him, so I don't know if it's by radio or cell phone. Now, after the suspect's older brother had made that 911 call, he walked over to his parents' house, and he looked back towards the bunkhouse. He saw the suspect coming out with a rifle. Now, I believe the rifle involved was a AK-style rifle. Now, the suspect, he hollered at his older brother, and he's telling him, he says, "You're going to cause me to get killed now." So the suspect, he pointed the rifle at the older brother. And the older brother, he ran into the house. Now, the suspect, he got into his pickup truck, and he started driving slowly around the house and the bunkhouse. And then he began slowly driving down the road to leave the ranch. Now, that road from their ranch to the main road now, that's a pretty good distance. It looked like it's a mile or more. Now, the suspect's older brother, he got back on the phone. He called 911 again. He told him, he said, now look, my brother's got a rifle now. 9:38 a.m., dispatcher advised Deputy Hopkins that the defendant was armed with a rifle. Deputy Hopkins asked the direction of travel, and they said they didn't know. Now, the suspect, he got about 500 feet from the house, and Deputy Hopkins came down the driveway towards the house, and they stopped facing each other in their vehicles. Now, the suspect, he had that rifle down in his lap. Now, he raised it up and he fired one round out the window of the truck. Now, that round, it hit the windshield, went through the windshield, and struck Deputy Hopkins in the upper body. And the description given by the courts, it was a fatal round. Did a lot of damage to Deputy Hopkins. Now, the suspect, for whatever reason, he gets out of the truck. He walks over to Deputy Hopkins' patrol vehicle and he turns it off. Gets back in the truck. He cuts off his ankle monitor because he's on parole. Registered sex offender. And then he drove away cross country. Now, he didn't hit the main road. He just started driving some of those back roads. There are several that lead away from the house. Well, he got stuck in the mud not too far from the ranch. Now, at 9:52 a.m., the suspect, he sees Sheriff Poindexter. Sheriff Poindexter's not coming down the main driveway. Sheriff Poindexter, old Marine. So he's coming through one of the side roads. Suspect, he gets out of his truck and he starts cranking off rounds at Sheriff Poindexter's patrol vehicle. Now, Sheriff Poindexter, he got on his radio and called for help. At the time of the shooting, Sheriff Poindexter is probably 50, 60 yards away, so well within range of the suspect's rifle. The suspect fired at least 3 or 4 rounds at Sheriff Poindexter. At least one of the rounds struck the patrol vehicle. Now, Sheriff Poindexter, he threw his vehicle in reverse and he backed up about 100 yards or so, trying to get some space. And he was able to get down and get out of his vehicle, retrieve his own department-issued rifle, and he started returning fire. So this long-range gunfire from both parties, it lasts for just a couple of minutes. Finally, Sheriff Poindexter is able to hit the suspect in the area of his knee, and the suspect goes down and then stops shooting. More help arrives, and they're able to take the suspect into custody. And they transport him to the hospital. Now, they get to Deputy Hopkins, and he's DOA. Now, the suspect was charged with first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, felon in possession of a firearm. Now, he was found guilty of all the above, and he's sentenced to life, no parole. His defense during the trial was not guilty by reason of insanity, and the jury didn't buy it. Deputy Hopkins was only 31 years old. Deputy Jack Lanson Hopkins. End of watch, October 19th, 2016.